What's up, guys? And by the way, I just saw. I've always, like, when I'm trying to see if I'm on Facebook, I do the wax on, wax off. I heard a video of Pat Morita, who is the actor who played Mr. Miyagi, and he's just a normal Californian guy. And one day he just tried the Miyagi voice, but he doesn't actually talk like that. And that's kind of been mind blowing because for 30 years in my head, I thought there was this old wise Japanese guy who talked like this. So anyway, I don't have any announcements for you guys this week, so let's just get into the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. It's an old wrestling homage for those of you guys who don't recognize that. So we got Tucker first. Tucker says, question, I have a client in the HVAC niche that wants me to run ads for a promotional AC install, but only wants to spend $500 per month. I've explained that it would be helpful to have a higher budget, but he wants to try and I'd like it to be successful. Any tips on how to run a successful campaign on a tighter budget? Oh, Tucker, this is a good question. This is something that comes up. So there's a couple of things in there that I kind of want to point out to you that I think will help you. The first is, Tucker, is as a general rule, if like a client needs to spend a certain amount of money to be successful, then you should not just politely advise it, but you should be adamant about that fact. Jay Abraham calls this the strategy of preeminence, because what ends up happening is if a client kind of like dips one toe into the water with advertising and then finds out the water is cold, they'll almost always pull those ad campaigns, and so they're just going to end up losing money, especially when they approach it very tentatively. It's like playing the game not to lose instead of to win. So one thing you may want to consider as a potential solution is just don't go after clients who are like that. Go after clients who have already demonstrated they have bigger budgets and don't have these fears of advertising. The second possible solution is be adamant. Like, listen, I run these kind of campaigns. You don't have a proven offer. It takes us a little bit of time to figure that out. And we have to spend money to do that and put it in front of real people and test ideas. Like, you're going to need to spend more than $500 a month, or I would just say let's walk away, because I'll just waste your $500 and it won't be enough to accomplish what we want to accomplish. The third thing, by the way, and in your situation, this is the one I would most recommend, is figure out how to get them a result with the resources they already have. Man, there's this obsession in, like, especially local businesses, but we're guilty of it too, is the idea that more money can only come from new. And I promise you, old is less sexy but pays. And I'll use this example, kind of beating it to death, but just so you can wrap your head around it, it's very easy. Like, if a restaurant is trying to get more money in the door, they'll always tell you that I need more new customers. But in reality, if they went up to a customer who's just there on Tuesday and said, here's an offer to get us back on Thursday, I'd be willing to bet you a bunch of money that some of those people come back in. So rather than being obsessed with the new, is just run them something that creates the ad budget. That's something that you may want to consider as well. It's like, with the resources they have, which is almost always their customers, their leads, their prospects, their followings, all the things, the resources they've already created, how can you get some money in the door using the resources they already have? And then they'll be much more open to, advertising and not being afraid of doing that. So that's how you kind of run a successful campaign on a tight budget, more or less. Takes a little thinking outside the box. Anyways, Duran says, how do you document your learnings from your tests, such as ads and landing pages? If so, do you use a spreadsheet or a tool? And what metrics, dimensions do you track? If you could share a template, that would be great. Duran, this is a really good thing. A wise question about like tracking what's working. The truth is, I mentioned this the other day in a post where Perry Marshall calls this forest, trees, leaves. And the forest is like the big picture, big things that have big results. The trees are like the middle-sized things, and the leaves are the little things. And so everything you do in advertising will make an impact if you use this word or that word, this color, that color, this image or that thing. But where I think most people get it wrong is they start on trying the little things, the little leaves, right? So was the red button or the green button better? When I said buy more or purchase more, did it make a giant hill of difference? Those are the leaves, the little things that make a difference. I always like to test the biggest of big thing, the offer, the whole forest. And so our tracking is actually really, really, really easy, which it doesn't require a spreadsheet. It's like, how is that offer doing? How is that offer doing? We might be running like 3 to 5, 10 offers at once that we're trying out, but not that many that we have so much out there that we need like giant tracking it. And also, I think people track the wrong things. I just finished reading a book by Eli Goldratt, who's famous for the theory of constraints, and the book is called The Goal. And what he talks about is everything you do to optimize little pieces of the thing are only useful if they achieve the end goal. So in this case, like sales, right? So like I see a lot of times people have high click-through rates that attract the wrong people, or they'll get high opt-in rates, again, like the wrong people, or they'll have like a funnel that leads to no sales, even though they have all the mini little metrics optimized along the way. I'm only looking at one big number. Is the offer working? Is it converting to sales? And other than that, I don't think you need to track much else. If you want to be like, CEO of, if you're doing it in terms of like you want to be an ad manager and be like really in the trenches, then I would probably use Google Docs and just be really organized with it. But I would suggest thinking bigger, because there's less to track and there's more value work to be done. And just a little add-on before I answer the next question. It's like doing the $1,000 an hour CEO work instead of the $10 an hour to $100 an hour optimizing work, which is still valuable, but is not like the best and highest use of your time. Juan, what are you looking for in a sales copywriter exactly? Results, price, seamless delegation? Believe it or not, Juan, it's actually not one of those things. And I'm not saying all those things don't help. Like if you have results and case studies and proof that you're a great copywriter and people say you're awesome to work with and you get stuff done on time, like all of that matters. But I'll tell you the biggest thing that I'm looking for is actually experience in that niche, because I know just from doing this that every niche just has little subtleties and differences about them. And so the biggest thing I want to know is, can you write for these people? Like I could go into a brand new niche and I could figure it out, but I would rather, if I'm paying a copywriter, just have somebody who already knows that, who already is inside of the head of my ideal prospect. Like Frank Kern, who by the way is considered one of the best copywriters on earth and is actually the guy who got me into internet marketing, because he was just like this hilarious swearing surfer dude. He says, everybody thinks I write really great copy, but it's actually only in the internet marketing space where I know all these people and I meet them at conferences and I see them. If I had to write in any other niche, I wouldn't be a good writer. I would have to like figure it all out again, brand new. And I think that's very, 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 very true. And so what I'm looking for in a copywriter is actually like experience that's relevant to mine, because I found just even going from like lawyers to like, as our agency expanded before, we've gone into other niches like copywriters and dentists, even just those little subtle shifts where local businesses where they have more the same than different make a great deal of difference. So I think the best thing you can do as a copywriter is position yourself for the types of like sales jobs that are like basically like a slam dunk for you that you can deliver on, and just be a master of that one little space instead of trying to be all things to all people. Even though I'm sure copywriting jobs can be fun and you can explore with those. Salman asks, how do you guys make sure your offer stands out and not be viewed as a commodity similar to everyone else? Well, I mean, there's a couple things, Salman, to like standing out from the noise. The first is like you got to see where the noise is in your marketplace and what everybody else is saying. That's not very hard, by the way. It's usually you can find that pretty easily. Like in our space right now, I notice in the agency, everybody's like promoting like appointment setters. Like I see every single group I'm part of, there's somebody like get an appointment setter, get an appointment setter. So if you're offering a appointment setting, it's probably going to be a hard day to make a living, because a lot of other people are doing that. So there's a couple things you stand out with the noise. One of those is just picking a niche, right? Like if you go from appointment setter to I set appointments for Facebook ad agencies or for e-commerce agencies, suddenly it's a different thing, right? So niching is one way, and I actually think most people don't niche down far enough. You actually want to take it 2 levels deep. So like lawyers are a big niche, and I've gone like a level deeper to personal injury lawyers, and I'm actually probably 3 levels deeper because I only deal with personal injury lawyers of a certain size that advertise. Like that's our target market. It's very tiny. I'm not trying to be all things to all people. And the more you can do this, the more you can stand out from the noise. The other thing that I found that really helps stand out from the noise is don't specialize in a doing. Like too many people specialize. I do Facebook ads. I do SEO. I do web design. Those are doing. Specialize in what gets done. And the best thing I found is the $100 specialty. And what I mean by that is just ask your clients who their clients are that they want the most of, and specialize in producing those results. So like in the personal injury space, for example, like trucking accident cases are like often like $250,000 and up cases. And they're not really any harder or easier to get than any other personal injury case, right? You advertise on the keywords that say trucking accident, you run a landing page, you follow up with the people, like that's how you get trucking accident cases. So the whole deal with that is like specialize in what they most want within a niche, and then your offer will stand out from the noise. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. There's lots of ways, but I found that the easiest two ways. Pick a niche, pick the high value thing, be the high value person in there. Almost always there's nobody who's created a methodology to bring them the stuff they want. And almost always the cool thing about like getting them high value work is they can usually make more money working less. And the biggest objection you'll get, especially with local businesses, that we specialize a lot in, is they just work too many damn hours. So they would much rather do like $100,000 job than 10 $500 jobs or 50 $500 jobs, that kind of thing, right? So send the big stuff their way. I think this is Hilka. That's how your name is pronounced. Hi, last year I started an online marketing agency. All right, and you're a year into it. My focus was on optimizing the online presence of local services like small gyms and rental services. So the usual stuff like SEO, social media, and PPC. For this type of business, I think a referral campaign could be super useful. Do you guys know any good referral service with a white label option so I can make the referral campaigns for my clients? Or do you think you don't need a referral service for successfully tracking referrals for your clients? Hilka, I'll tell you, when it comes to referrals, you're actually overcomplicating it a whole lot. Like the referral process is actually very, very simple when you understand it, which is somebody just says like, hey, go try this restaurant, it was really good. Go try this rental service, I really liked them. And so in most cases, like referrals are actually a very simple organic thing. And the reason why they're simple is because when you're advertising to cold prospects, they have no direct experience with your business, right? So there's a lot of hurdles you got to get them through. Like if you think about, like I like to use restaurants a lot because it's an easy example to wrap your head around. Restaurant, you got to convince them, firstly, that you got a good restaurant. You got to catch them when they're hungry. You got to get them to get in the car. You got to get them to drive to your restaurant. You got to get them to sit down. You got to get them to order. You got to get them to try the thing. Like those are a lot of hurdles you have to overcome. When you're dealing with a referral, they've already overcome all those hurdles, and they had a good experience, and now they're telling somebody else. So I used to experience this. I first realized how easy referrals can be. I was talking to a lawyer in California. His name is David. He's a very, very smart lawyer. And he used to get shit tons of referrals, and all he would do is, at the end of his consultation, or at the end of his clients being happy, he would give a little business card, and then it would just say, this is a VIP business card that entitles you to one free consultation. So in other words, it had an offer on it. It wasn't just your normal like contact info and stuff. It was a business card designed to have, for them to distribute and to make an offer to make referrals happen proactively. And I realized really quickly, smart businesses make the referrals happen proactively, and they do that by creating little tools that people can give away. Cool thing is that we've since copied that for some of our clients, and all it is a business card. Like I use the same business card for every client. This is a VIP card, gives you a free consultation. So I use a service called Vistaprint when we get them printed, but you don't need something super complicated. Just think about how that referral is happening already in the real world, and then think about how you can put a device or a tool or some kind of thing that makes an offer. And usually the best thing to do is just little gift cards, little booklets, things like that they can give away and say, hey, this is the dentist I use, check them out, and things like that. And what you'll find is referrals happen much more organically, systematically. So you don't need I don't even think there is a white label company maybe there is, but that would be, by the way, that's a huge opportunity for a niche. If somebody tells you they're looking for a service and they don't know anyone, that should let a few of you guys know that this is how you find untapped niches with relative ease. Anyways, next question, Carlos. Quick question for those of you who are about to launch a lifestyle agency business or did so recently, or are you bootstrapping it? What do you fear the most, and what are you doing to overcome the fear of loss, failure? Thank you all. Carlos, I wanted to share some thoughts with this because I think this would benefit everybody. We probably don't talk about the mindset stuff enough in here. And one of the things is, by the way, firstly, in my experience, very, very, very few people who start this industry are trust fund babies. Like I don't mean people who like, I got $100 million in the bank, so I want to do SEO and Facebook ads. It just doesn't happen that way, right? Like almost all of us bootstrap it in one form or another, where we're starting like from essentially nothing. And that's the appeal of the business, is that you can go from like nothing to 20, 50, 100, 200,000 a month with your freaking laptop, right? And you're going after high value clients, so it accumulates very, very quickly. So I would say most of us are bootstrapping. Your experience of bootstrapping is pretty typical. So don't take that as any sort of bad thing. Now, as far as you're overcoming the fear of failure, I wanted to talk about this because I think this is one of those things that doesn't get probably discussed enough. I'm guilty of kind of passing it over. Firstly, I don't think you overcome a fear of failure. You just accept that you're going to fail a lot, and you deal with it. Like, for example, I have a mentor who's almost a billionaire, the wealthiest person I know, like in real life. And one of the things he told me is he set a 5-minute rule that whenever he failed, he would give himself 5 minutes to feel miserable and over that. And so he knew he was going to fail. And so his thing wasn't, will I fail or not? It was, how do I bounce back from this and use it as the next stepping stone in my journey? But not, how do I not fail? So yeah, I think it's a misnomer to think you're not going to fail. The other thing is, I've mentioned, and I just wanted to restate this for some of the people who are catching the replay and stuff, because I thought it was a really good question that you asked here, Carlos. There's 3 emotions that I see that you're probably going to have to deal with as an entrepreneur, like again and again and again and again, and they're never going to go away. And they are anxiety, especially when you look towards the future in your money situation, because we as entrepreneurs have way more money uncertainty than somebody who knows they're going to get a paycheck every Friday. It's just the nature of the game. The second thing I see a lot of is frustration, like when you're working real fucking hard at something and it's not going your way. And for me personally, like the tech has always been that. Like when it gives you some stupid error and you're like, why the fuck is it not working? I used to yell at my computer and my dog would run away. That's how frustrating the tech was for me. And then the third thing you're going to feel, especially as you get busier and more successful, is overwhelm. Like for real, I like to say I have a to-do list that grows as I'm working on it. Like for real, every time I finish one thing on my to-do list, there's 2 things to replace it. So it's very easy to look at a giant to-do list and just go boom and have your brain melt. But these are the 3 things you're going to deal with over and over. And I used to think you would reach a point where you would overcome them. So I would never have anxiety again. I would never be frustrated and never feel overwhelmed. And the truth is, like, take anxiety, for example. I used to have an anxiety about, like, I wouldn't make any money and I wouldn't be successful. And then when I had a bunch of money, I was worried about, like, can I still make payroll? What if these clients leave? What if what if my service doesn't hold up? What if my sales guy gets sick this month? And you have all these other silly anxieties, but it's the same kind of thing you're dealing with, just at a different level. So you don't fully overcome them, is my point. You just learn to deal with them. So when I feel like anxious, I just take a step back and stop what I'm doing, and I breathe and I relax and I wait till I'm relaxed enough to be able to go to do what I'm doing. If I'm frustrated, I just take a step back from it again, and it'll resolve itself in the next day or 2. Especially if it's a tech related thing, I'll find a solution when I'm not so irritated with it. And when I'm overwhelmed, I need to like either go for a walk in nature, chill out, or just, pick one thing on the list. Let's just work on one thing at a time. Let's just put one thing on my plate and we'll work on just this one thing. And then what you find is you can manage it and things like that. But you never fully overcome those emotions. You just deal with them. Like I'm 14, 15 years into it. I still have a fear of failure. I still have anxiety sometimes. I still have frustrations. I still have overwhelm. The difference is when I first started, I would have an anxiety about the future. And then for 3 days, I couldn't face my business. And now I'm over it in 30 seconds. I'm like, all right, just chill out, breathe for a second. It's not as freaky as you're making it. Okay. So I still have those kind of things, but you get better and better at dealing with them, and then you just move forward in spite of them, not letting them stop you. Good question, by the way, Carlos. Nikki Two Angels, any tips on how to get past the gatekeeper, that is the office manager of a dentist office, and get the message directly to the dentist, or a clever subject line so they don't mark it as spam and actually read the frickin' email? Today I used the subject title, dentist need a 3rd day off, neck and back pain, ? Okay, this is a deeper subject here, Nikki Two Angels, when you got a marketing campaign going and it feels like you're just getting cock-blocked by gatekeepers. There's a couple of ways you can deal with the gatekeepers, and there's really only 2, I guess, that I've ever thought of. One is just to go around the gatekeeper, and I do that often through direct mail. If I send a personal confidential letter to the dentist, I know the secretary is not going to read it, and so go straight to the dentist. I don't have to deal with the gatekeeper. That's one way. But the other thing is not to see gatekeepers as the enemy. And this is really, really key, but see them as a collaborative partner, and actually you want what they're trying to do, and you're not trying to get around them. You're actually trying to work with them. This has been a big secret of mine, by the way. I'm working on a marketing campaign with a very, very successful, kind of amazing name that many of you guys would know. I've interviewed him on my channel, but a marketing legend, and I'm starting to do some work with their company. And one of the things I've done is I've sent thank you notes to all the gatekeepers for helping me out, being cool. Like, how often do people do that? John Carlton said he used to, whenever he walked into a business, he would hand the gatekeeper a stick of gum and just say, hey, would you like one? And just being giving and charitable and welcoming them as someone else. So here's the thing. The gatekeeper's job is to do two things, is to connect people and to filter out the barrage of fucking useless ad requests. That doesn't mean, by the way, that they want to filter everybody out. They're just trying to filter it out for usefulness. And so the way Ari Gelper used to talk about doing this tactically is he would just say, because what most people do, by the way, when they pick up the phone is they give away themselves as salespeople, or when they write an email, they give away themselves as salespeople. When they say things like, hello, my name is Frankie Finn, and I'm calling from ABC, and the reason I'm calling today is blah, 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 blah. You already know I have some generic thing that I'm selling you before I even open my mouth. So what he suggested is just approaching them like they're used to being approached, which is, hi, what time are your hours? When are you guys open to? Who's the person who's in charge of deliveries? Can I talk to the delivery person? Like those kind of questions. And so when you use that, you say, hey, when Susie picks up, you say, hey, Susie, I would love your help on something. I'm trying to figure out who the right person is who manages like referral campaigns for dental implants. Can you connect me with whoever that person is? And they'll become your collaborator instead of the person who's trying to block you. So it's a mental shift from how most people look at it. But you see people, instead of as competition, you see them as potential collaboration. Shane says, my niche is home remodelers and contractors. Is the best strategy still to use organic marketing and Facebook group marketing? Having been in the business 17 years myself, up until I was a coach and consultant, I never visited Facebook groups and so on. Would love to hear your thoughts. Shane, my man, here's the deal, okay? There's no one right way to reach every group of clients. I know everybody wants to say this is the strategy, and it may be actually the strategy in that niche, but it's not true of all niche. My first most basic rule is, where do they go already? And this is a little bit different for every people. So like if I'm trying to reach e-commerce people, they hang out in Facebook groups. So that's the first place I'm going to go. But that's because where they're hanging out already. If I'm trying to meet like a professional accountant, I'm probably going to find him on LinkedIn. What's up, brother Kona? I'm glad you're digging it. If I'm trying to, in your case, you mentioned home remodelers and things. I call those the redneck niches. They're probably not my favorite niches personally to work in, but those people are mostly offline people. Like in the real world, they call, they text. You go meet them in real person, in real life, real person. You know what I'm saying. So my first question for you is, Facebook groups work and building an audience works. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. But having said that, before you do that, like where are these people already? The most successful agency owner I know is a guy named Seth, Seth's agency, he owns a law firm and an agency that does $500,000 a month, every month, right? So I don't know, that's like 6 million or something like that a year. I think they might actually be a little bit higher than that. And one of the things that Seth does is he finds out where the top people in his niche are having masterminds, and he pays money to be able to go give a presentation to those people. So he thinks, where are the top people in my industry? How can I pay to get in front of them? And that's his strategy, the whole thing. That's how he does all his business. Handshake, face-to-face. But he does that because that's where they're going already. So you have to have your own version of that, which is where they're going already. And in your case, I suspect the best thing to do to like connect with these people will just be in real life. Yes, you can invite them to Facebook, and yes, you should do that. But the best strategy in your niche is going to be the same as in anybody else's niches. Find out where they already, assemble and organize and group and build communities and go infiltrate those places and become part of them. Curious, with there being so many agencies out there, what do you feel sets your agency apart, and why should the prospect choose you versus one of the many other agencies? Curious to see what folks feel is their USP on this. This wasn't so much a question that was kind of directed, but I just thought was good to to create some comments. I'll tell you, there's a couple of things that trip people up in terms of having their agency stand out. One is they're just not niched down enough. They're like, I work with local business owners. That's way too fucking broad. You're going to have a hard time. Even when you write like a message, like I get people sometimes who will write message to me and say, Dear entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur and I don't think they're talking to me, right? You need something like, Dear personal injury lawyer, currently spending for TV ads between $100,000 and $500,000 a month. I have some important news for you, right? Like it's very, very specific. It's a much better ad. And I've used the example before. If you try and write an ad for somebody who is an athlete, you're going to have a really hard time with it. But if you try and write an ad for a left-handed golfer with a slice, it's going to be a better ad, right? So part of the reason why people just don't create messaging and USPs and things that stand out is because they're just not niched down enough. So it's hard to say anything meaningful. Dear business owner, I can increase your stuff, right? Like it's hard to say anything meaningful, but it's the minute you have dear left-handed golfer with a slice, you actually have something to say. So that's one of the biggest reasons people don't have it. And I'll tell you why this is so damn important. Everybody thinks it's important for sales. It's not. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not important for sales, but the biggest reason you want it, the biggest reason you want a USP is the more you are the only one who does what you do, the harder it is to fire you, right? Like it naturally feeds itself into retention. Sometimes I see mediocre agencies fucking crushing it because they're the only ones who do it. And I'll give you a real example just so you can get your head around this. There is in the legal space, there is a company that all they do is they have remote virtual assistants who answer the phone for you, and they are called Alert Communications. And Alert Communications does one thing. For personal injury lawyers, it's a big problem because they get phone calls around the clock, and they're open from 9 to 5, but from 5:01 till the next morning, there's nobody to answer the phone. So they pretty much all either use nobody or they use Alert Communications. Now, Alert Communications is a very mediocre company in my experience. They're not terrible. They're not awesome, right? Like they just answer the phone and do a halfway decent job. But they're getting all the business in that niche, all of it, because they're the only ones who answer the phone from 5:01 to 8:59. Now, I know a lot of people who have virtual assistants, agencies, that are not trying to solve that specific problem or cause a specific result. So that's another thing. Is the second thing is like have a specific result that you build your agency around, not a doing. And I've talked about this a lot, but like, you know, the best metaphor or one of the best metaphors is what you do is like a plane ride. People are trying to get somewhere with a plane, and what most people are selling is the comfort of the plane ride. It's got nice cushy seats, it feels good, we got the best secretaries, amazing in-class food, and instead they should be selling, here's how much the office sucks, and here's how much nicer it is going to be at the beach with the bikini-clad women and the beers and the sunshine and all those things. And they don't really, the plane ride is almost just the secondary thing, and 99% of people are selling the plane ride. So you need to figure out what the problem is that your agency solves and what the result of that problem being solved looks like. And then what will happen is your USP will just naturally flow out of that because you'll probably be the only one creating that result. And it will usually require a combination of tools. You might use a little Facebook ads and a little bit of email, right? Or you might, run a Google ad and retarget. Like, for example, I have friends in the personal injury space who do that. They run Google ads and then it's really expensive, so they retarget on Facebook. But yeah, those are usually the two biggest things that'll stand out, is to having a specific result and a specific niche. You do those two things and your messaging will have some bite to it. And usually the best way, by the way, to figure that out is just look at the clients you've been the most happy with and think about, like, how can I have more clients like that? John asks, do images without text on them convert better than with text on the image? John, you're going to probably send me on a little side rant. Thank you for this question. So I do not want to ever tell you there is one way to be successful with images. I've tried a lot of shit. I have friends who probably have spent 10 to 100 times the amount of money I've spent on Facebook ads too. So like, compared to them, I probably know very little. Now, having said that, one thing I do understand is humans. And I'll tell you what people do wrong with images is they try and get too cute about them. And I'll tell you, like, I tried a lot of things for years to break through with lawyers. And I remember at some point for half a year to a year, we ran pictures of cats and dogs because like they would always get lots of likes and things like that and comments, like a dog with a briefcase and say, "Dear lawyer." And what we found is, yeah, they were cute, but they didn't ultimately translate to the most important number of sales. They got clicks and they got comments and he's, but they didn't convert to what we ultimately wanted to do. I did a live training in this group on Facebook as well. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Dramatic Demonstrations. And dramatic demonstrations, in essence, are visually showing people without words, because our minds think in pictures, visually showing them either the problem that you're going to solve or the result you're going to create, and doing that so they get it in a couple of seconds. If you do this and apply it to images, you can have some pretty amazing results. I don't know if those of you guys who saw it in the Facebook group. I just posted a win from Steve, who's in our mastermind, and Steve spent something like $160 on Facebook ads, and he told me his clients got like $60,000 in sales. And what I'm most proud of, by the way, is not that Steve made all these sales, is that it was all the things he didn't have to do. Like, he didn't have, everybody says you got to split test 18,000 ads, and you got to watch your pixel, and you never scale up more than 20% a day, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to, and when I've experienced that personally, all I've ever done is like spend $10,000 in test ads that kind of work, but not really. And in his case, he just ran one ad, no split test, no targeting, spend $160, spit out $6,000, of course, and he can keep running the ad. Like, he's not going to turn that off. And a huge part of what makes that work is what's inside that training and dramatic demonstrations. And it's really, really simple in his case, is he shows a guy holding his power bill and says, it's $200 cheaper this month because I got solar. And people want that, right? Like, it doesn't really take a lot of dressing. And actually, saying it powerfully with an image like that will make your sales argument so much more powerful. There's a reason why, the way, for like years and years, infomercials would, like, you know, slice it and chop it, and they would show you the thing working. I don't know how many products that work by smashing. You're going to love my nuts. I don't know if you guys ever saw that guy. But they always demonstrate the product, right? I was actually here in Mexico for the first time, like, I don't know, like 5 years ago with Dan Crystal, who's an awesome dude in this group. And I remember there was a point where the guy was trying to tell us that his bottles that he puts his tequila in were much more sturdy and robust and strong than everybody else. But instead of saying it with words, he threw the bottle up in the air and it fucking crashed down on the counter. And there was a point where I was like, whoa! And it didn't break. And I believed him when he said his bottles were sturdy and more robust. And then he went, and I remember at some point, he said, he showed me a 10-foot agave plant, and he says, this is what agave is supposed to look like. This is what tequila is made out of. Most commercial places only let it grow 3 feet, and then they fill the rest with sugar, so it's kind of like processed, low-grade tequila. And he shook the 2 bottles. He had his bottle and a competitor, and he shook them, and he said on the competitor, there's little air bubbles here. That happens because of sugar. You'll notice when we use agave, you don't see any air bubbles. It's just 100% pure here. And those demonstrations, like that homeboy sold a lot of tequila. I found out, by the way, he's from Houston, Texas, because I talked to him after. And he is not Mexican at all, but he plays a very good Mexican tequila salesperson. And so much of what works in images, to answer your question, to circle back, so much of what works in images on Facebook ads are dramatic demonstrations. And when I say work, what I mean is not to be measured by vanity metrics. They are not the ads that produce the highest click-through rates. They are not the ads that get the most number of opt-ins. They are not the ads that like get the greatest number of people to watch your webinar, but they are the ads that produce the most sales. And if your goal is to produce sales, I suggest you be measured by that metric, and therefore do them because they work. So if you haven't already, check out that training. It's actually, for real, it's one of those trainings. I know I'm bragging, I'm a little personally attached to it, but it's worth watching 2, 3, 4, 5 times to really get it, because if you really get it, you can sell your stuff so quick with a quick little hard-hitting image, and then you don't have to try so hard with words to tell them why your SEO is so damn cool, or your ads are so cool, or your Facebook system is so cool. So that's all the questions we got for this week. I would just like to add that training in particular, the dramatic demonstrations. We also have a training on how we do our Loom videos. I would suggest, if you guys haven't already, check those 2 channels out on the YouTube channel, or those 2 trainings out on the YouTube channel. You can search them. They're really, really good. I'm a little biased on the subject, but I wanted to put some cool stuff that could just be there and refer you guys back to it for a long time. That's something like that had a pretty timeless value, because too many people think about running ads and getting clients and all of these things as the the technology and the minutia instead of thinking about the human and the psychology on the other ad. And I'm not saying both don't matter, but in my experience, the technology matters, or the psychology matters so much more. So I just had an alarm go off on my phone. It's probably a good time to end it right here. That's all I got for you guys this today. Much love for you guys, and may the force be with you.